Welcome to Wall Street Reporter's Company Spotlight. Today I am speaking with David Gandler. He is the CEO of fuboTV. Stock symbol is FUBO, a company that a lot of you in the audience probably remember as originally FaceBank when they first presented in our next Superstock live stream. Obviously there's been the merger with Fubo, and that's where David Gandler comes in. So David, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, David, a lot has been happening. So, can you bring our audience up to date? The people who kind of were following the companies since the merger with FaceBank. What is Fubo TV all about for anybody that's new to the story?
Yeah, so Fubo TV is a sports-first cable replacement product. Our strategies come for the sports, stay for the entertainment. We have one of the largest assortments of sports content over the top. That means via the internet. So as people cancel their cable subscriptions and look for services like Netflix and Hulu that are online, we provide sort of the live TV with the sports and news angle of that. And I'm sure a lot of your audience already knows there's a secular trend that's happening where consumers are canceling their cable services and opting for online services that provide greater value. Obviously, the price points are extremely compelling.
So we have, I think there's actually, what is it? They say there's the cord cutters and there's the cord nevers. I don't think anybody under the age of 30 even has cable.
Yeah, well, so we don't target cord nevers. Cord nevers means that they never cared about sports or live news. So if you care about Fox News or MSNBC or BBC America or your local television stations, then that cord never, that's a market they never cared about. We're focused on sports viewers, hence Fubo, the name. It's really about driving sports content. We have over 50,000 sporting events on the platform, local regional sports networks like Madison Square Garden and NYSE in Boston, as well as all the national sports. And with that comes the network news nets. And so that's been the area of focus for us.
Okay, so David, let's talk about numbers. I mean, you have some pretty impressive numbers. Can you walk us through some of the metrics, your revenues and all that?
Sure. So most people think Fubo is as old as Roku. When you look at the streaming landscape, you'll find that Netflix is 20 plus years old, Spotify 20 plus years old, Roku approaching I think 20 years old. Fubo has actually been in the we call it the virtual MVPD space, which is the virtual cable TV space. We've been in that business for about 3 years. The company's only 5 years old. We've grown revenue from $72 million in 2018 to $147 million in 2019. We've grown our subscriber base up from, I think it was up 40% from in 2019 over 2018. We've exceeded 300,000 paying subscribers. And I was saying before, the trend is strong. Not only are revenues solid, but our business model is predicated on two things. One is the subscription business, which most investors are familiar with. Netflix is a subscription model. But it also is the advertising component, which Roku is known for, right? They sell their hardware, no margin business, and then all the ads is where they drive the profit. So we're a dual revenue stream, subscription and ads. It's unique to the public marketplace. 3 models today that you can buy are, the subscription model, Netflix, Roku, the advertising model, and Spotify, which is the freemium model. Fubo is the first model of its kind in the public markets where it's a dual revenue stream.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're doing roughly. So what's the run rate of the company right now? Would you say like ballpark? Like what kind of?
Yeah, so I think we're issuing a shareholder letter either this evening or tomorrow evening after the close. But yeah, the run rate is typically with subscription businesses it's very predictable. Exactly where the run rate is, but I could tell you that we're pacing well ahead of where we finished 2019.
Okay,
so
out of that like 147 million, what's the breakdown between subscriptions and ads?
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. In 2018, advertising revenue was about 4% of total revenue, and in 2019, 8%, and we continue to see very strong tailwinds as it relates to advertising. I think the two major, so Fubo sits sort of at the crossroads of three major themes. The first theme, obviously, is subscription revenue, the secular decline of cable television, and consumers pushing to get into OTT. The second trend is the shift in TV ad dollars, which we see with Roku. Television ad buying moving towards connected device, which 90% plus viewing is connected device driven on Fubo. So, that's another area that we'll take advantage of. And the third area is because of the sports nature of our sort of our programming, is that the company is also focused on the wagering side of the equation. So sort of those are the three legs of a stool that we think drive our business. And we finished 2019 with about $53 of average revenue per user. We call that ARPU, up from $37.92 in 2018. So you're seeing significant pops. And
right.
As we sort of increase the number of products we sell, which obviously, as I mentioned, wagering is a continuing area of interest for us. As we sort of decide how we leverage our technology stack, as it relates to the sports programming, those are sort of the three areas that are driving the business.
Interesting, but you haven't launched any kind of wagering yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
We've been focused on strategic initiatives. We have the only point of entry we have with as it relates to wagering today is obviously we have a platform that skews largely to sports fans.
Right.
And so we have a number of these wagering platforms reaching out to us and buying advertising. So from an advertising perspective, that's sort of where our entry point is. And as the sort of company that drives viewers and eyeballs to wagering platforms, I think one has to imagine that a company that's driven largely by the internet would be interested in a succinct strategy that relates to video. That takes advantage of all of our sports content.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think I looked at some of your materials in terms of you're basically a sports, essentially like this sports first platform, and from what I understand, really like the user interface that you have, like some of the different features, it really is geared for like a hardcore sports fan, like a guy who wants to watch, I don't know, 5 games at once and go back, like, real little fanatics, really.
Yeah. Well, that's how we differentiate.
It's a perfect audience for sports wagering.
Yeah, well, that's how we differentiate. Our product set, I mean, we're the only ones in the United States over the internet that do 4K for live sports at scale. We were scheduled to do about 120 games this year. Obviously, due to COVID, that was pulled back. We also created features like multi-view, which you just mentioned. We also have a navigation system that lends itself very nicely to discover sporting events. And we collect over 21 billion data points per month. So we know exactly what our consumer is looking for. And we're leveraging that data as it's sort of integrated or woven into the back-end technologies that we've built to allow us to discreetly communicate and cohort all of our customer groups. So the way you should think about us is we're a technology company first. And so Netflix and Spotify have both proven to be amazing technology companies, and we look to emulate what they've accomplished in their respective spaces within the live television and specifically the sports universe.
Interesting. I mean, like, to me, it seems like you're almost like the sports version of Bloomberg. If you can add this wagering component, it's like you can watch, you can trade, you can do you get all this incredible sports data, all this games, everything.
Well, we've been extremely disciplined as it relates to entering the pay TV field. As you know, it's pretty. I would say it's pretty competitive, generally speaking. If you look at the way I look at streaming, it's a very complex Venn diagram of companies. We don't compete with Netflix. We don't compete with Roku. We're in a very unique place because we do sports. None of these companies do sports. So the group that we're really after are the incumbents, which are the Comcast, the Charters, the Altices. There are about 8 companies today, traditional companies that cater to about 74 million of the 84 million cable subscribers out there. And so our thought is that those sort of 8 companies are going to fold all of their customers into 2, 3, or 4 streaming services, given the complexity of the tech stack. So as you start to bring in, and that's the glue that holds cable together, right? It's sports and news. So our goal is to, in a very disciplined way, continue to grow our business. We've done a very good job growing at 100% per year from a revenue perspective. We've been focused on upselling, product upsells that drive gross margin. And yet now with sort of wagering going where it is, and some of these companies contacting us with the desire to market on our platform, naturally, just like Netflix before us and Roku and Spotify, you start to evolve that business model and find that sort of sweet spot for the company to continue to grow at a good pace.
Now, I really want to get into that wagering. I have some questions about that, because that's a very interesting area. But in terms of you have you have 300,000 plus paying subscribers. How big is the market opportunity? I mean, like, you're sports first, right? So are you, and you're going to keep that branding? In other words, you're going to stay with that sports first. Okay. So how big is this opportunity, do you think?
Strategy. Come for the sports, stay for the entertainment. And during COVID, that strategy actually worked quite nicely. There was no sports, and viewing hours went from 123 viewing hours at the end of 2019 to peaking at 8.5 hours per day. That's a significant amount of time watching. If Netflix is the gold standard, 3 hours or 3.2 hours is a lot. Think about what 8.5 hours is. We have that much content on the platform. And so come for the sports, stay for the entertainment really translates to, very simply, low acquisition cost, because sports has inherent demand for it, right? So you're not, crushing your marketing budget by, having to get people to understand or create demand for a specific show. The format, the protagonist. It's very simple. Once we get you in, the machine takes over. It tries it'll induce certain behaviors that we know from cohorts that perform well on the platform. It introduces you to news programming and other entertainment. And so the stay for the entertainment really translates into retention and monetization. More hours you watch, more ads we sell, more upsell opportunities. And I think what's interesting is Reed Hastings used to say that, we're competing with sleep. That was at like 20 or 30 hours of viewing, which sounds like a lot. So when you think about the power of a sports first cable replacement product in the 140 hours, you start to think about what the opportunities are around sort of driving monetization and retention.
But how many? In other words, like, how many subscribers do you think you can get to? Let's say, 3 years from now. Like, could you?
Yeah, look, obviously I can't comment on where we think the business can go. What I will say is that the global pay TV space in the United States is about a $200 billion TAM, and the advertising space globally is about $175 billion. So when you couple the two, and then you overlay that with the number of sports fans in the United States, which is probably around 65 million households, maybe 70 million households, all of a sudden, it's a pretty sizable market in the United States. And given how expensive sports are, you really don't have many companies. Many companies have actually stated explicitly, like Netflix and others, like, we're not touching sports. It's just too expensive.
Interesting. So you're saying there's 65 million sports households of sports fans. Yeah. How many would you say are, let's call it, ideal candidates? I mean, like, would you say they're, hardcore fans?
Well, I would say, again, the glue that holds cable television together is sports and news, nothing else, right? Because you can get your entertainment content through Netflix or some of these other SVOD services that have launched.
Okay.
Most people need their local news, their NFL, and their regional sports. That's an area of focus for us. So there are 84 million pay TV households, of which I would say the vast majority that still keep cable is because they need their NFL, they need their NBA, they need their Major League Baseball, they need their World Cups and Olympics and, college basketball and BCS. And that's kind of where we play. And the market and the experience online obviously is going to be significantly better. We're the only ones that carry 4K today. Software companies innovate every week. Think about how long it takes for a set-top box to just upgrade their electronic programming guide, the guide that you scroll to see what's on. I mean, it takes years and years. So we're extremely far ahead. We're leveraging machine learning and today's simple forms of AI to better understand, what users are looking for. And again, when I look at the hours view, the average customer who watches cable only watches about 6 to 7 channels per month. On Fubo, pre-COVID, they were already watching 16 to 17 channels. So clearly, we're creating more value by allowing folks to discover more and more content.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. You mentioned a point which is kind of I think pretty compelling. So you're really like a tech company first, and then in the entertainment space. Whereas most of the incumbents come from the legacy of broadcast, cable.
Yeah. I would say that most companies you would call or consider to be media and technology companies. Fubo is a technology and media company. So our first foot forward is always technology. And that's what drives all of the value that we're creating for our customers. I mean, we manage 40,000 zip codes today, variable rates per county because of all of the RSN fees that differentiate from county to county. We automate all of our blackouts for local, national, and out-of-market sports. We manage over 100 SKUs on the platform, which, again, very difficult to do. And then all the subscriber data, all of the analytics that we collect, and then all of the video encoding and all this. I mean, the whole system outside of like a few key areas, which is like, the cloud itself, which is typically Google or Amazon or Microsoft. And then just because we're not PCI compliant, for those who don't know what that is, means we can't manage credit cards, right? So we outsource that. But everything between that is all the software that's built at Fubo. And, we've got a small but growing patent portfolio, I think around 15 patents at the moment. And so, again, very focused on technology and attempting to emulate what Netflix and Spotify have done in their spaces. They're clearly very strong technology companies first.
Okay, no, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so before I get into the wagering thing, because probably a lot of people want to know about that. One last question on the ads. Do you have to split that with anybody, or I mean, how does the ad revenues work?
So the ad, I mean, it just works similar to cable. We get allotted 2 minutes per hour, just like Comcast or Charter from our media partners, and we monetize those minutes. So think about when you get an ad that let's say you're sitting in New York City and you see Bob's New York Ford. Those are sort of spots that are dedicated to your cable provider. We get the same ad marks, and on the fly, we stitch in live content ads that come in, and those ads are addressable. So the opportunity for advertising, I mean, clearly you just have to read some of these Roku reports that come out. But we, I think it was last quarter, we were seeing upwards of $5.50 per subscriber per month.
Wow!
So all of that is on a net basis that comes in after all of the fees that you would to pay your ad tech company. So we're very comfortable that if you triangulate with Comcast today, they're doing about $10 per subscriber in ads. That is non-addressable inventory. So when you think about our addressable capabilities on connected devices and, overlay that with sort of our first level data, all of a sudden you can see how those CPMs continue to grow and you can drive that number higher. So we've got a long way to go from where we are today. We just hired our first ad sales chief. She's SVP of ad sales. That is on June 1st. And our numbers are pretty much in line with what I would say with Roku's quarterly number from an ads per user perspective. So a lot of room there to continue to build.
Okay. So sports wagering. How would you be able to implement that, on your system? How would you be able to monetize that, this opportunity?
Yeah, so actually I just saw a very interesting survey out of casinos.org. How they just ran a survey that 84% of those surveyed, suggested that they would prefer to pay their pay TV provider for wagering, like to actually. So that's the space that exactly we're in. And I've been looking for data on this. It doesn't exist. It hasn't existed until a few days ago, which is interesting. So we're already collecting $50+ per month from people. And so, we don't have to deal with this potential trust issue where people can't trust, putting cash into account tied to our business. But the way I look at wagering is very simple. You think of a company like Sky PLC out of the UK. Sky is one of the largest pay TV platforms in Europe, which is now owned by Comcast. They also had the largest, or one of the largest, betting platforms called Sky Bet. And so pay TV provider with Sky Bet, right? And that makes sense because people who watch video, I think it makes sense. You'd want to watch a game and place a bet, right? Just like you're watching the stock market and you want to learn about stocks and, you look at tickers. And so we feel we're very well positioned to be able to, infiltrate a market like that with a very unique proposition. And the proposition is get your Super Bowls, get your Olympics, get your, Champions League soccer, get your World Series. You can get all of that on a distribution platform. And, obviously, given our expertise in upselling users on products like DVR and family plans, we feel that there's an interesting opportunity to isolate folks that are overwhelmingly viewing sports and offering them a new opportunity through the platform.
Okay. And with that, so who would basically who would take the bets? Would you partner, or would this all be internal?
Again, internet companies typically want to own their own destiny. So, as I said, we're very disciplined. We're going to take a different approach. Right now, as I said, we're partnering with a lot of these wagering companies, just allowing them to market on our platform. Obviously, it's not cheap to market on a platform like ours that has premium sports. Over the next few months, we'll continue to iterate on our strategy. And once that's ready, we'll come to market with our view. But, at the end of the day, as I said before, we're a technology company. We own most of our own software. So if you extrapolate from what we own today and the way forward, it's, safe to assume that technology and software are sort of a key component of our core capabilities.
Okay, that's very interesting. So people they'd be able to bet like in real time,
Look, over time, as I said, it's just like our platform. We started with soccer in 2016. We rolled out 50,000 events, and by 2020, we've developed all of our product features in the last 24, 36 months. You should anticipate that as the technology improves, as the scalability improves, as we grow and hire and retain more people, more employees, that will continue to develop those features in-house. But yes, I think your questions are well pointed.
So it's interesting. So you have really the ideal, obviously, platform for sports wagering to advertise on. What percentage of your audience do you think actually are like regular bettors? Like, what is it, 50%? Or like what percentage of sports fans bet?
Right. Look, I think we all know that there is a significant number of people who watch sports, especially during COVID, right, when there's nothing to do. People will look to play, to wager. This is a form of interactivity, in my opinion,
right,
and a form of entertainment. And if you want to build interactive television, you have to go this way. And as I said, we're uniquely positioned because, our peers are not going to get into the wagering space for a number of reasons, some of which include regulation. And then the wagering companies will not be able to break into our business, the video business, because it's a completely different business. And so, I think what you well noted was the convergence of video, sports, and wagering. And for stay-at-home stocks like Fubo is an opportunity, in my opinion, that is about to experience strong tailwinds in the subscription space, in the shift in advertising revenue, and in the opportunities that lie in front of us as it relates to wagering. Whether that's sort of an initial step of just partnering with wagering companies so that they can market on our platform. We've done a few of these already in recent months. And then on top of that, obviously, we'll build in as we get more comfortable. And also, regulation continues to become more favorable. So those are the three areas where I think that are probably most opportunistic today for any media or technology company.
Okay. Just, without getting like too much into details, but what would you need to do in order to launch this in terms of from a regulatory standpoint?
Yeah, look, I think it's just some legal work. There are some fees associated with, license fees. There are really no huge barriers to entry here. Some of this technology, unlike our technology, which is built in-house, wagering technology, I would say, is a little bit. First of all, it's available in Europe. It has been available for a very long time, and so there's obviously partners out there in the short term that could provide white labeling solutions. So there's many options. We're still
Okay.
working through what is the right opportunity for us. And then, as you well know, we're launching Disney and ESPN on 8/1. So we'll have the most complete NFL bundle online, which is going to be really interesting to see how we do this fall. Typically, fall is our sort of growth season. And so, as we sort of look at the data and how that comes in, we'll start to sort of hone in on a wagering strategy that works for us that might be multi-level.
Okay. So timeline, like a timeline for launching wagering is what would you say?
What I can say again is that we built this up in about 3.5 years, and the company's only 5 years old. I can assure you that historically we don't wait very long, and we're very quick. So this is not a like 36 or 48 or 50 month plan. I mean, we're actively looking at opportunities and putting our sort of business plan together on it.
Okay. Okay. So it could be done quickly, basically.
We'll keep you posted. Yeah, I like we're a technology company. That's our
Okay.
job. Move quickly, and we're competing with some very large companies. We have been for 5 years, and we've perseverance has been a strong suit of ours. And as I said, we move quick, and we're looking for the right opportunity at the right moment in time, with the least impact on the balance sheet, and that's what we're looking to do.
Interesting. Now, I think the recent deal. I mean, this is probably a lot of investors in our audience are probably see this guy on the financial news, social media. This Barstool Sports, right? That was
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was a content company, right? They were bought by Penn National purely to get that audience.
Right. I think that's a great point. Look, we have audience, and on any given sporting event, you'll have hundreds of thousands of people come in to watch a game. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll subscribe, but think about the cost associated. I looked at DraftKings model, and they're saying that they think the acquisition cost is around $400 to $450 per customer.
Wow.
Right. So if we're streaming a Super Bowl or an Olympics or a World Series, and a few 100,000 come in, and even if they don't want to subscribe, we now have people that we can market to from a wagering perspective, and the cost there obviously is either zero or quite low. So when I look at sports video plus wagering, one has to imagine 1+1 = 3,
Interesting.
right? From an acquisition perspective.
And one thing, just I want to touch on. You mentioned you also have some other revenues coming in from DVR.
Yeah, so like I said, we're a sports first cable replacement product. The way the model works is we get you in on the sports bundle. Think of it as the Roku hardware, which doesn't make any profits, or it's very low margin, and that's the hook to get you into the Roku ecosystem. So Fubo's hook is we give you this sports package at a significant discount to cable, right? In some cases, it's our price point as of 8/1, when we add all of the ESPNs and SECs and ACCs, is going to be around $59 at the base price level. That is still way off of the $110, $120, $140+ cable subscription. So once you're in and the machine takes over and you start to watch all this other content, and we get you to watch 130, 140+ hours, we're monetizing through ads. We're now offering you DVR capabilities, which are 100% margin. We sell you a third stream, an additional stream for your household, which is another 100% margin product. And so that's kind of how the ecosystem works. So we trap you or we entice you, I should say, with this sports first product that has some of the most premium content, everything from Friends on the entertainment side to procedurals like SVU and Chicago PD, and all of that is wrapped around the most premium sporting events in the United States, coupled with your local news. We have over 700 local television stations up and running, no network operating centers. Again, everything is cloud software based, and I think we're well positioned for a future that who knows what's in store with COVID still being sort of front and center. Again, we think we're going to be able to take advantage of the sort of stay-at-home situation going into the fall and the winter season.
Okay. One thing probably a lot of people in our audience want to kind of get an update on is what's happening with the now you merged with FaceBank. So
yeah,
what is the what's the future of those assets, like the celebrity IP, the virtual Mayweather project, all that stuff?
Yeah. So first of all, we're very happy with the merger. We've only been merged as of April 2nd, so we've had 90 days during a very difficult macro situation with COVID. And so, but we've gone through all their assets. We've looked at their digital IP. I'm going to be very clear. They own some really interesting assets, right? Mayweather IP as well as Muhammad Ali. Those are the two big standouts for me because we're sports driven, and we're thinking about how to leverage those assets, whether it's through the production of virtual events that also lend themselves well to wagering. Again, just another sort of opportunity to do that. There's the pay-per-view component of this, which also adds value to our video platform. And then potentially for iGaming, right? The use of the digital IP and selling that digital IP to create sports-focused iGaming is another category of which that I think is we really haven't discussed pre-merger, with FaceBank and John, but now it's coming to the forefront. So lots of value there. The risk in the merger was limited. That FaceBank is relatively small in the sense of the number of full-time employees they have, and that company scales with projects. So they'll scale up 150 employees on a project basis. The project is complete, and then they scale down. So for us, it was great. We get into sort of sports IP. It's an area that we had limited knowledge of, no expertise in. It was all project-based, so limits the potential integration risk, which I think many companies have to deal with, especially in a time like the one we're dealing with pandemics. So for us, it made lots of sense, and both sides seem very happy, and so we're continuing to work together to figure out the best strategy going forward.
Okay. Now, so Fubo TV. I mean, you have a pretty impressive management team. You recently had Edgar Bronfman Jr. join you as the chairman.
Yeah.
Not a lot of OTC companies have Edgar Bronfman and have a couple $100 million in revenues. So tell us about maybe a little bit about your background, because you're the founder of the company, right? You're the co-founder, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So a little bit about your background. Tell us who the key players are.
Yeah, look, I've been selling video more ways than probably anybody in this country. I started in local television advertising sales in a small market, San Antonio, DMA number 7 Hispanic, DMA number 35 general market. And then I worked at Time Warner Cable Media, which is in New York, which is now part of Charter. So I've sold all of the networks that we currently carry today, all the technologies that were available through some of the joint ventures that they had, such as Canoe Ventures. And then from there, I went on to Scripps Networks Interactive, which is now owned by Discovery. And then from there, I went on to SVOD, which is a small SVOD company that was acquired by Warner Brothers called Drama Fever. It was a SVOD service dedicated to Korean dramas. And then from there, that's when it was acquired, I decided, okay, the only area that really is left untouched is sports and live television. And so 7 days after that acquisition, on November 7th or 8th of 2014, I said, okay, I'm going to get into the space. And so very quickly on January 8th of 2015, we launched a service with no subscribers, no employees, nobody. And very quickly grew it to where it is today. So, and we've raised about, I think publicly by the end of last year, about $250 million of equity. And then most recently, I think there was an 8K that came out yesterday that we raised from an accredited investor, $20 million. So we're positioning ourselves. Edgar came on board. Obviously, he's a thought leader, a person who I admire, a person of very high moral character, who was the CEO of Warner Music, which recently IPO'd. Had worked with Vivendi very closely. So, he's a person that has seen success in the past, and we're very lucky and proud to have him join as executive chairman for our group. So we're very ambitious people, and we've done a lot. We've grown quickly, and we're going to continue to focus on areas where we think we're going to drive maximum value for consumers and shareholders.
Okay, and you also have some pretty impressive shareholders and strategic investors.
Yeah.
Can you kind of like go over that? Because I mean, like, I don't know if I guess it's in the 8K, so you can you can mention who the investor was this week with the 20 million. But I mean, these are substantial players.
Oh yeah, no, we have our cap table is extremely solid with some of the most, I would say, some of the best investors in media. Strategically, we have investors like Viacom, CBS, Disney's a shareholder, Comcast is a shareholder. Well, I should say Disney's a shareholder through its acquisition of Fox, and Comcast is a shareholder through its acquisition of Sky. Most of these major strategics invested in the company because, one, high level of execution, high quality execution, and technology. Those are the key areas where most media companies, fail, and that's an area of strength for us. We have a number of other investors, including some of the largest technology companies in the world on the cap table. So, and lots of different, operators from the media space that today hold, some significant positions in the corporate media world. So we're, again, we're surrounded by solid investors. We are surrounded by a great management team, and as I said, we've been executing well over the last few years, and now we're finally in the public markets, traded, as you said, OTC today. But again, we have ambitions. So,
what's the plan on uplisting? I mean, I think you have a plan to go on NASDAQ.
Yeah, we do. We've mentioned this in the press. These are plans that we have in the near term. Obviously, it's very difficult to know when is the right time to do that. But obviously, we're working on a strategy right now for that. But the goal is we'd like to do it this year, assuming the market conditions allow for that.
Okay. So, David, let's kind of wrap up with two last questions. One is, what's your vision for Fubo, let's say 2-3 years out? If everything goes according to plan, what is Fubo going to look like at that point?
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, again, internet companies are international. So, what we'd like to do is we'd like to be the third largest, pay TV platform in the United States, and the third largest platform in a multitude of other countries, which would make us de facto number one. We're going to continue to acquire sports content and do deals with these major media companies, developing some wagering capabilities that can continue to drive ARPU higher. And we'll continue to focus on our strategy of come for the sports, stay for the entertainment, which seems to be working very well in a time where one would think, we'd be in deep trouble with sports, obviously non-existent for the last, call it April, end of March, April, May, and half of June. So again, we're very well positioned. COVID for me was eye-opening in terms of how much content people consume on Fubo that is not sports related. Again, focus on marketing efficiencies, focus on retention, focus on content optimization.
Okay. It's interesting that, there's no live sports, but meanwhile, some of these sports wagering stocks are like DraftKings have been, on fire. So
yeah,
people they don't need live sports.
Yeah, they don't. I guess people can bet on anything.
I want to ask you actually, esports is becoming like a hot thing. Is there any kind of, and people actually watch this, right? I don't get it, but it's millions of people love it. So is that something that you see getting into?
Well, so again, like COVID has allowed us to see lots of things, and we do carry esports on the network, and all of the sports networks have attempted to leverage celebrities or athletes and playing some of these games like FIFA and NBA, etc. And look, I still think it's early for us. When the time is right, we'll see it in the numbers, and we'll sort of continue to play in that space. Right now, I think the real engagement opportunity is real sports. I don't think anything can beat the NFL and some of the other properties that we have. So we're well positioned on the short term, and obviously, just given the amount of data we collect, we always have one eye on the future, and we'll look to take opportunities as they come. And so esports is one of those things that we'll continue to keep an eye on.
Okay, so David, last question, which we always ask in these interviews, is in your opinion, what are the key reasons? Let's say top 3 reasons why investors should consider fuboTV stock today.
Yeah, look, I can't. I typically don't talk about the stock itself. What I do like about it, as an individual, I would say is that you have to play trends, and I don't think anyone can deny cord cutting is a trend. Cable companies continue to provide data that suggests that people are canceling at better and increasingly fast pace. That's number one. Everyone loves LTV models and subscription revenue, which adds predictability. The shift of TV ad dollars, that's a huge other opportunity, which falls right in line with what we're doing. And then the third piece is wagering. So this is an opportunity to play all 3 of these spaces in a company that is really, very young and growing and developing technology and sort of playing in the right fields where the tailwinds are solid. So, it comes down to execution, as I always say.
Okay, David, on that note, I want to thank you, and
Thank you very much.
we look forward to hearing more from Fubo in the months ahead.
Yep, thank you so much.